Hello and welcome to Farthest Frontier. So this game is in early access, as you can see here. Gotta expect bugs, performance problems and so on, and it has only just come out fairly recently, although the devs are already pushing like hot fixes out, as they refer to them. So yeah, starting to pay attention already. Although to be fair, the game has actually been available to certain YouTubers out there. So they've been playing it even before it was released to the public in early access, so they must have had it early access basically. But anyway, we can now play it, so that's what we're going to do. So it is a town builder, settlement, civilization type game. So what we need to do is just click on confirm, accept that. We're going to go to new settlement, and we've got a choice of difficulties. So Pioneer being the easiest, Trailblazers normal, Vanquishers the most hardest option that you've got, and just reflects like, well, you know, how many resources you're going to get, the select amount of hunting and wildlife you see out there, amount of difficulty you're running into with the actual hostile forces out there, because there are raiders, although you also get attacked by the wildlife incidentally. You've also got illnesses out there, crop failures, problems that even the actual villagers themselves will run into. Some of them pretty nasty diseases, but it's you're going to get diseases for the people, diseases for your crops and so on, but that's something to worry about later on. What we can do is we can randomly roll, or just literally just create our own name. I quite like that one. That's interesting, that pickle brew. Now we've got a choice for our terrain. Now it says it's going to go for a random roll, but I've already found if I end up with the arid highlands, that is extremely difficult. So I'm thinking, I mean, lowland lake sounds easy, environmental difficulty, plain is medium, alpine's medium, so you could go for either of those. If I end up with that is seriously brutal. I just literally started up a new map with that one, and it was like hardly any resources at all, so that's like, okay, I think I'm gonna force this is the only thing I'm gonna force, which is the map type, and I'm just gonna go for the plains one. I mean, actually what it says, plains is bush, few forest and lower, alpine. So it's either of these two, but I'd rather have that one. I think I'll try that one. Just out of curiosity. Map size, you can go with small, medium, large. I'm just going to stick with medium because I don't know if it's going to have an impact or not, but what I found is when you get a lot of people on these maps, it does seem to introduce lag, I think. But as they said at the start, I mean, you've got to expect performance issues. I mean, it's very early access. All the polishing, all the performance improvements, they get dealt with later on anyway. We've got a choice here where we can enable pacifist mode, which just means we're not going to have the problems of the raiders, because you get raiders coming in to attack your village, steal things and destroy your buildings. You're going to be up against animals like the wolves and the bears, so if you want you can disable that, but it's a relatively peaceful game, I must admit. It is a very, very tranquil game anyway. You've also got a choice of advanced settings here, which basically allows you to get a bit more detailed in terms of the difficulty. So, for example, we've picked out Trailblazer, which is the normal mode. But if you want, you can make the maladies even more harder or easier if you want. Entirely up to you. So, I do like that, I must admit. You can put in a different seed number and so on. Share it with others if you want, but it's a single-player game anyway. But I'm just going to click on Start. And off it goes.
Life can be harsh everywhere, but in the old world, there was no hope of it ever improving. When our crops failed, the ruling class would still collect the same share, leaving our children to starve. And if we had any coin to our name, the taxman would appear, demanding it for the crown. The nobles hid behind the safety of their walls and did nothing when raiders pillaged the outskirts of the city. And so, some of us decided that it was time to leave, that we'd rather take our chances in the wilderness, seeking the promise of a new land, than starve to death in our homeland. journey wasn't easy. We lost many along the way. But this wild, unsettled land offers us the hope of a new start as the masters of our own destiny.
Right, so just going to get started, and you can see, I mean, it's, as it says, this is an alpine area, so we've got a lot of trees, which is good. I can see some rocks over there, but the first thing we've got to do is basically pick out somewhere to put this town centre that we've got at the end of our mouse. I notice it's making a funny noise when I move it around, but there's all sorts of resources. I mean, you've got your trees, you've got your rocks, you've got sand, all sorts of minerals and so on to gather. We've got wildlife like these deer over here that we can hunt, so they spawn and live over there, for example. There'll be other ones. Now, ones I need to be aware of are things like the dire wolves. I mean, these are not just your average wolf, these are dire wolves. So I was like, okay, fair enough. They can be pretty vicious, I must admit. You're going to get bears coming after you as well. So, oh yeah, there's a wolf down there. So what I've got to do is I've got to find somewhere, though, to just get started. Now, one thing I've found is it's kind of like similar to other games that I've played where you can't have more than one village. And if you do try to get people living in one big area to begin with and then try to expand out and then start getting other people to live in another area, it kind of falls apart because you end up with people living in one side of the map, if you will, doing work in another side of the map, and it can get really messy. Because part of the problem is the efficiency. So I'm just trying to look for a reasonable area to pick, and you can see up at the top there's an option to toggle some overlays. So if you press G, that's for the desirability, that's to do with housing. That comes into play later on. You've got an I, which is the water table. The bluer it is, the more water you'll get when you're sinking wells, and then F is for the fertility, which applies more to when you're actually growing fields. But having said that, you can actually, you know, make areas more fertile anyway. One thing I did notice is that I think the best strategy really is to just find a big area, put your town centre down, because your town centre has an influence on desirability. So you want all your houses pretty close to the town centre. So I need somewhere that's actually got a lot of room, to be honest. I mean, these resources will all disappear anyway. Oh, it's true. There's some direwolves down there. Right there. It's a wolf den. And that basically, it's going to keep respawning wolves. But once you encroach onto that territory, it seems to disappear anyway. Over here we've got a pond, but I'm not seeing. Oh, there's some fish over on that side of the pond. Some deer over there, but I don't want to be too close to there because otherwise I won't be able to build anywhere. It's a bit tricky because of the mountains. I mean, I think the plains probably would have been better, but as it says, you get fewer minerals. It's kind of a tricky choice. There's another water source over there with some more fish. I'm tempted to just plunk it right down in the middle, to be honest, because early on we don't have much food. I'm going to have to start gathering, so we've got things like mushrooms here, for example. We've got hawthorn berries there. You'll be getting greens usually out somewhere. Well, I'm not seeing any. There's the deer that we can hunt. Yeah, there's some greens down there, and there's some greens over there. So the thing is, I don't want to build on land that's already very fertile, because I'd rather use that to start with where the fields are going to go. So I mean, there's some food fairly close by. The interesting thing is I found out later on is you can actually move these hawthorn berries. The other sort of stuff you can't, which is a bit of a pity. You can't like move mushrooms around, for example, or the herbs, for example. and you can't grow your own. That would have been extremely useful, I must admit. I mean, there's some iron over there, there's some coal over there. That's good for the industrial stuff. But the thing is, I want a lot of room to expand, because as I was saying, part of the challenge is trying to keep everybody. You need to get to something like 250 villages, and you need certain ones, because you start off with certain types of houses. And I'm more inclined with this playthrough to just literally start with an area that I can just build and just keep building and expanding out. So I'm actually tempted to just plonk it down here, to be honest, because we're in fairly reasonable range of some foods. Well, I would have preferred to be able to get the food down there, but if I build over here, for instance, yeah, I think that's going to be a bit of a tricky one. So I think just for the sake of argument, I'm just going to plonk our town centre down there. Yes. What the heck? Go for it. So right down in the bottom left hand corner, we've got different speeds that you can toggle. So you can get half speed 1 times, 2 times and 3 times, and then you can pause the game. So that's basically it's 1, 2, 3 and 4 are the shortcuts on the actual keyboard. So at the moment we're running at just 1 speed on what I've got it paused. So they're going to start building this, and it needs 18 logs. You start off with this little storage cart, which is actually very, very good when you're gathering things. I found the trouble is later in the game it'll actually take away your ability to build more of these, which is a bit of a shame. They're really, really useful if you just want to be able to go and start gathering a lot of resources or build something somewhere, because you can take all the resources to an area or gather all the resources from an area. So something like this is extremely useful. They've deliberately taken that away when you progress into the game. But as I can say, we're just coming into early spring at the moment, so we'll go through the seasons. That affects you know, when you get into the crops and so on. Certain crops they'll work well depending on certain temperatures, and they're the sort of things you'll be running into. The heat levels and the frost, all this sort of things. There's a lot of micromanagement goes on in this. Well, it's some pretty good stuff at the top. I mean, this tells you like how many people are ill, for example, and being treated, how many people you've got versus how many houses you've got, happiness of people, and it gives you a pretty good breakdown there. The food, the different types of food you've got, your logs, your firewood, your planks, stones, clay, bricks, gold, and then you've got other little hotbars down here. So if you just click on that one, it sends you back to where your town is. In this case, it's just the actual storage cart. So we're just getting a bit of a notice there telling us. It's kind of strange, I must admit, because it's by default it's got this tutorial, but I must admit it's not that helpful, I'm finding. But we've got options over here for the villager professions, so it gives you a breakdown. You definitely want a lot of labourers. These labourers don't just go around and pick things up and take them somewhere. They actually repair your buildings, and that can really come back to bite you, although there's a technique probably show you later on way into the game of how you can get around that. And then you've got a certain number of builders, then the rest are in various professions depending on what you've got. Go right to the top, gives you town info, so what health levels are and so on. Then we can get into resources in the actual town, happiness levels and so on. So it's quite useful, and you can click on different things. If you click on different things, it's basically to give you shortcuts to which take you more or less back to the same sort of places. I was just showing you. Shut these windows down. So that was the professions, then the resources that we had. So it's the same sort of menu, it's just different parts. So there's different ways to get to different places. Then down here you've got a building menu. This has got a shortcut. These have all got shortcuts. So if you just press B, brings up the building menu. You've got this one, which is your harvesting one. So this is how you can tell it to get people to actually harvest resources. And once you select that, you can drag, and you can actually get them to then start. It literally picks out anything within that dragged window that you've selected, and off they go, and they'll actually start to actually harvest those resources. At least that's what the labourers do. The only thing is there doesn't seem to be an opposite way to do that. There isn't an option to drag and deselect, tell it to stop. There's an option to clear, which just basically just removes everything, which is a bit of a shame. If you actually click on something incidentally and you don't want it, just right click and it deselect it. You've got an option to manage your walls. You've got an option for that's basically once you start building walls, you can do certain things with the walls, but we're not into that point. You've got an option for terraforming, and at this stage all it does, it just flattens the terrain, although I found it's not that particularly useful. Some of these buildings can be very, very fussy, want very flat ground, and I've spent ages and ages getting people to flatten things and they just don't like it. We've got a shortcut for building dirt roads, although there's an option when you go into building to go to walls and roads, for example. So when you get into other tiers, you can start doing stone roads, for example, instead. So I find that's useful early on, but after that it becomes pointless because I'm always just building cobbled roads anyway. So dirt roads are quite useful to begin with anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to let them get on and build up. I'm just conscious of the actual time because we've only got a certain amount of resources, and we need to get these people houses. So if we go to the buildings option and then housing, you can see we actually need a town centre. So there's various things you can do, and they've all got these little padlocks on them basically. So until you meet certain requirements, you can't actually build them. So some of these, I mean, it's saying we can't build these houses until we've actually got a town centre, but you'll find other things like those roads, for example. You can't do that until your town centre's at tier 2. So I'm just going to wait a bit. Oh, I could change the speed if I want. Right, I'm just going to pause it there because we've now got a town centre, so let's see what we can do. So we've got amenities and services. So the only thing we can do to begin with is build a graveyard. People get pretty hooked and whatever, you can get diseases and all sorts if you don't have one of these and people start dying. Housing, all you can do initially is just build a house. Those houses do get upgraded, at least they'll get updated automatically if you want. By default they do anyway. There's options up here. It says there that disables the option to automatically update buildings. So you just basically put these houses down and then you can leave them to it, and they'll just keep upgrading based on certain requirements that you've got. There's no other houses to build except these ones, which are, it says they're temporary shelters, and it's a bit deceptive, and what I found is that they're literally just emergency. That's according to the devs, what's called an emergency house. The idea is that if somebody's very far away from home, and that you will run into that later in the game, if there's some dire situation, maybe it's like midwinter and they can't get back home in time, or maybe there's some problem going on, they'll head to the temporary shelter. Otherwise you'll find they'll just end up running back home anyway. Storage. Start off where we can build a stockyard, which is for the basic sort of stuff like stone and wood to be gathered in. Although at this stage we've got this little portable storage cart anyway. Food production, we can start to set up a hunter's cabin. We've got, they can go and hunt the deer, for example, and the boars. They can also hunt the wolves, but I found that's a bit tricky. Usually there's too many wolves tend to pop up and they get killed easily. We've got a forager shack, so that's useful for getting the actual berries and so on. Fishing shack, so you want to place one of those near water. You can see at the moment, although we started with a full view of the map, we've now got a fog of war, so we don't know anything about what's out there now, even though we knew initially. We'd have to start exploring the area. And that's what that little flag is, as I'll show you later. So the fishing shack, you can start putting in fields. The only trouble is there's certain types of crops you can grow, which, like with wheat, for example, you can't do anything with them until later. Smokehouse, which is good because they can actually take the raw meat, raw fish, and they can preserve them longer. For resources, we put down a basic well and a firewood splitter. Firewood, we don't have any, so that's going to be extremely important. Defenses, we start putting up a defense tower. The only trouble with these towers, though, as you just hopefully see, is that they have a monthly cost of 5 gold. It costs a certain number of gold to build it, but you also need gold to actually keep it going. You have to pay for the guards. So I don't know why they're making it available now for some strange reason, because we don't have access to gold anyway. So that's kind of odd. It's classified as a tier 2 building. Walls and roads, you can do stone, you can do fencing. Fencing comes in really useful, you'll find, for when you're putting your fields down, because the actual wildlife come in and eat your crops, so it's useful to keep them out with fences, and then you can have a gate so your villagers can pass through them. And then decorations, you can grow various types of trees, then you've got access to various little shrubs and so on in tier 1, plus some a shrine there. But these cost gold to put down, which is a bit frustrating. There's nothing in the game to actually replenish the trees. People just go out and chop the trees down. There isn't an automatic way to get those trees replaced. You'll find there's a lot of micromanagement, at least at this time of the recording. Anyway, first things first, we don't have any houses, so I'm just trying to size this up. I think what I'll do is I'll have a road. I'm going to probably run a road there. I want these fairly close to the actual town centre anyway, so I'm just going to plunk these down. The folks will start to clear the place out anyway. So we've got 12 people. We can put 4 people to a house. That doesn't change, I've found. Even when the houses upgrade, you don't get more people in a house, for example. So I'm just going to leave them. These houses, they just need 10 logs each. So they'll go off and they'll start to clear the area out, chopping the trees down and so on, based on instructions we had before, but we've got to then start clearing these out. We've got only 8 labourers and 4 builders, so we'll leave them to get on with that. Other things, I don't know if there's some strategy that they've got in terms of the AI. I haven't really paid much attention. It doesn't seem to have any problems. You don't get any warnings like if there's too many jobs, and it doesn't tell you anything about if there's just too much work to do almost of it. But I do need them to start collecting stuff, so I'm going to have a look around here. So there's a wolf in the near vicinity, so I'm going to try and stay away from there for now. So I've got a forager here, and as I move it around, as we get closer to things, you can see I just need to move it a bit. And you've got that ring that goes around it, so anything within that ring can be gathered by the forager. And you'll see it's showing like grade 3 for berries, grade 1 for the herbs, grade 3 for mushrooms. So we don't know much about what's going on over there, so it's a trick us to just keep moving it around, because there's the mushrooms down there. So it's still on 1 for... It's on 1 or 2 for herbs. Oh, there, that seems a bit better, I think, because it's 3 of 3. The only catch is it's right next to some deer. And if you have people going around here, it spooks the deer out. So, I think that... Oh no! No! We're getting attacked by a wolf. This is not good. I want to move this. I don't know if anybody's driving that. You can actually get people. You can actually control people if you click on them. But I can't see an option. I can't find a way to rotate the camera. I can zoom in, but I can't literally rotate the camera. Ah, there you go. So the mouse icon's turned to an actual sword there. So I could get them to attack. Looks like they're doing it anyway, to be fair. Right, so they've killed that wolf. That's good. So I think seeing as there's some deer over there, I'm going to get myself an actual hunting cabin. I'm going to stay a reasonable distance away. I think I'll just plunk them down there, because you can move their work radius later on anyway. The trouble is, as I say, if you get too close to them, they get spooked and they start to run off. Right, I do need a forager though. So let's get back to finding something. Oh, see, now there. That's interesting. So actually that could be quite useful because there's one over there and one over there. So we'll see when it pops up because it tells you how efficient these things are as well. And you can always move them afterwards, which I quite like. You don't have to destroy things and build things completely new. You can redo them. So where was I? I want to forage it, don't I? So there's some mushrooms over there. I mean, one thing I can do is I can actually move hawthorns. So if I can find somewhere that's pretty good on, say, mushrooms and herbs, like there, for instance, I can always move the actual mushrooms close to where the actual forager is, which is interesting. But these were all busy, so I'm just going to start to speed this up. So we've got 12 of 4, so we've got to get to the end of the winter. I need to make sure that they've got they do have problems if they don't have the firewood, I must admit. But it's not my top priority right now. I want to get food. I think we've got a reasonable amount of food. We've got 138 smoked meat, 88 root vegetables. So they're busy chopping that there. It could take a while. So they need to build that, so they've got that to build, plus that to build. I'm sure there was a pond down there. For the fishing shack. So if we move that, it actually shows you as you move it around. The trouble is you can't see much, so it's showing a fishing count of 250, productivity of, right, if you move it there, the productivity is 120%. But what I can do is, I get somebody to go down there, have a bit of a look, and expand the area, because ideally what I'm looking for is a little, one of these little icons that shows a fish, because then you get better productivity if there's a sighting of fish nearby. So that's on, let's speed this up, so that's on about 50, so as soon as they get rid of that, they should start to build that. So they look as though they're chopping things down over there. So that's Feldrus, and he's a labourer, so he's now off, so he's been helping out chopping trees down to clear the area off. Now he's going back over here, and they're going to start cutting away at that stone rock. So, who we've got here? So we've got, the builders are now coming in. So it says they need 10 wood. Now, have a look at the builder. So the builder starts to head over there. So looks as though there must have been some wood lying there, so they actually used that wood. Now what they're doing is they're going off to find some more wood to stock it. So that's another thing I found interesting about the game, is that the labourers aren't necessarily bringing the goods to the actual building site. The labourers aren't the ones bringing goods to the building site. The builders themselves are, which is a bit, can kind of be a bit confusing, I think, because you think it's like normally like the labourers like carry everything around, but in this case, no, they don't. They do pick things up and take them to places, but not necessarily to the actual construction areas. So they're still busy clearing things out. It looks like they'll start working on our forager up there. So what I'm actually going to do is, you can actually move these bushes, which is interesting. So I'm going to click on that one. At least you could. Oh, that's sumac. Oh, okay. I thought it was a hawthorn bush. I'm just going to change this, because normally there's... Oh dear. So one of our villagers has just died. That's not good. These are things to keep an eye on, because when you get into these professions, just click on that and click on it again. It'll let me. When you get into these professions, the positions don't automatically get filled, for example. So like if our hunter were to die, you don't necessarily get someone in to replace them, which is a bit frustrating. So you definitely want to keep an eye on that notice saying, you know, somebody's died, for example. Oh, speaking of which, because somebody has died, we need to make sure we've got a grave to bury people in, otherwise they'll have problems. I don't think you can actually move the grave once you've built it. I don't want it too close to the town, because my goal is to really expand this out. Let's put that over there for now. We'll have to clear the area out, but at least they'll be able to move that dead body. I'm looking for... Yeah, it's definitely interesting. You used to be able to move these. So I'm kind of kicking myself now because that option isn't available. You used to be able to literally select these and tell it to move them somewhere else, which is really, really useful for the forager. Oh, there's a wolf nearby. So the trouble is, this forager is gathering herbs and mushrooms, which isn't really all that useful now, because I was expecting to be able to get access to these berries. I was expecting to be able to move them, but the feature's not available. If you look at the building itself, there's options up the top, so you can salvage the building. So you get, I think you get about like 50% of your resources back, or you can relocate it, so they literally, you know, take it apart and move it somewhere else. And the plan was I was going to start moving some of these bushes, but the option to move those has now disappeared, suggesting we've taken that option away. Otherwise, that was an extremely useful ability. So in that case, I'm going to get them to move. I'll put... because I can always move their area of influence. At the moment, we're only getting about 1 out of possibly 3 for the herbs. The trouble is, I don't want to put it too close in that direction. There might be something more useful over there, you never know. Yeah, it's definitely a pain, that, I must admit. That was a definitely useful feature. So I'm not sure why they'll have removed that. And you don't get it with the other things like the mushroom clusters. They didn't have that option. Yeah, it's just a... Instead of a tutorial, sometimes it pops up and tells you, sometimes it doesn't. There's not that much goes into making that graveyard. I just wanted a reasonable distance away from the town centre. I'm just having a look around to see if there's anything that can be moved. It doesn't look as though it is. Ah! Blueberries! Oh. Ah! So I can move the blueberries near them. So I'm just going to get them to move the blueberries near the actual forager. So I need to find more of these. Oh, I don't want to harvest it, I want to move it. Interesting. So that's going to be right next to where they're actually working. And that's one thing to bear in mind is, if you go to these sort of buildings, this is not just the person's place of work, it's also where they live. So you can see that they're stocking this place with food and water, and they're going to use this to live in. Everybody else will have to go to them to get the food at this stage, but well, it's not too bad of a start. So we're at 7. Just to speed things up a bit. So the hunter, now, the hunter goes off and gathers meat as well as pelts, but you really want smoked meat because it's going to last longer. Now, the actual people can actually use seem to have drifted off a bit there. People can actually use firewood to actually cook that meat, otherwise they'll actually get ill. So what I need is, you actually need somebody to start producing firewood. I'm just going to leave these out on the outskirts for now. Just away from there, because the whole structure, I'll have to have quite a lot of thinking about what to do with the actual structure of this place. Because I've tried it off camera, I've played it already, and I've tried having two sort of like villages, if you will. You can only have one town centre, but it doesn't work. You can end up with like people living in one side of the map who actually work in the other. The whole process just falls apart. So that's never good. So leave them to get on with that. Water, we definitely need water, so I'm just going to, as you move this around, I mean, it's already toggled the water table. You can see, depending on where our put is, you know, how much water you'll get out of that. And it's fussy about the actual, you know, how steep the actual slope is, for example. That is where that terrain option does come in, but I think for now I'll just plunk that down there. Something else to bear in mind is you definitely need these for the actual fires, because buildings do set on fire. Anyway, there's our graveyard over there. Got enough to handle 100 bodies. I don't know if we're in time, or they've already buried that person, so that's okay. We're right at the point where we're getting our house put together. We're right into the autumn though. We're only cutting it close here. It's starting to build a fire splitter anyway, so I think what I'll do, because I can move this. I'll just move that over to there, so I know where it is. So that's all three of our houses built. If I press G for desirability, we're about 8%. I'll go over to the town. We've got to upgrade to tier 2, which means upgrading the town centre. It's saying you need so many people, over here to be able to do it. You need 30 people. You need a market to be able to do it. You need 8 shelters to be able to do it. To actually build it needs 40 planks of wood and 25 stone. So yeah, you've always got to keep expanding and upgrading to keep getting ahead and getting into these next tiers, and that opens up other sort of things that you can do. But anyway, we're just getting an option here, so more people will wait to join, but you need to amass 4 months supply of food as well as 6 houses to do it. So if we build more houses, we'll start to attract more people, but the trouble is, if you don't have enough food, it's going to cause you big problems, because people will starve. So there's another blueberry bush. So what I can do, I'll go and move that blueberry bush over to there. So at the moment we're at level 3 for the berries. So that's quite good. So I think I'll just grab one more just for the sake of it. So that'll get us the berries that we can do. I mean, we can't harvest them until we get into the next year anyway, but it means that where we're at, we're gathering mushrooms, we're gathering some herbs, which is good for the illnesses that we're going to run into, plus some berries. So we've got 2 sources of food going on. A hunter should be gathering meat. So they've produced it. It's quite good because it tells you not just how much they've actually got in their actual building, but it tells you, you know, what that building produced. Oop. I'm just pausing it there because somebody got attacked by a predator. So we've produced 150 meat, 3 pellets, 6 tallow out of that. You can see it's telling you up here, at the moment we've got 8 months of food in storage, but the only trouble is that you're up against spoilage where food spoils. So it's saying you've got 6 months of food lost to spoilage over the next 12 years, so that's 6 months worth you're going to lose. So not good. Right, anyway, where's this predator? So if I click on that, it expands. You get all these little notifications pop up, and you can click on them and you'll get more details about it. But one thing you can do is then zoom in on it by clicking on a little magnifying glass. So at the moment we've got a wolf by the looks of it. So that's not good. So I need you to go and sort out these wolves. Oh yes, I can select more than one person by dragging. So the more people I can get in to attack that wolf, the better, really. Because the trouble is, they actually get it. These people will get injured. I don't think we're at the point where we can start building doctors yet. Yeah, you need to be a tier 2 to get a healer's house. But yeah, what else can we do? So yes, there's the fishing shack. I don't know if anybody's explored that area yet. Yeah, they have. So right down there, if I was to build a fishing shack down there, the fishing productivity goes to 200%. If I put it here, it's at about 180%, 170, 150. So depending on where you put it is going to decide like how productive you're going to get, how productive this shack's going to be. Fish count 250. So we're always going to get a fish count of 250, it seems. But by putting it closer to that shoal of fish, we should get a better chance of getting more fish, basically. I'm just going to get them to explore this area a bit more. I'm pretty sure that was the only one there. So we've got a fair amount of food. Interesting enough, what I find is that you can actually get people wanting to join your village, even if you actually don't have enough houses. The tutorial is saying amass a certain amount of food, but kind of like gave the impression that, oh well, if you've got enough housing, you know, more people will join. But no, you just every so often you'll get somebody will come along and want to join, even though you don't have enough room to actually cope. I hate that. I seriously hate that. In the background I can hear these wolves howling, and that usually starts when you get into the winter. So we've got a reasonable amount of food. I could do with a smoker, somebody who can actually, if I can find it, yeah, the smokehouse. So what they'll do is they'll actually smoke the meat and the actual fish. That way it'll last longer. Oh, there you go. We've already lost somebody to exposure because we don't have enough firewood. I'll get a second person to join. Oh no. I'm dying of frostbite. Oh no. Normally it's one of these things where you got to just keep on top of it, but it's like I must have left it to too late. So at the moment it's coming up and saying that the building's got room for more workers, but it's a real juggling act. I'm going to drop it down to 2 builders because I really need more people. So if I click on the actual portrait, somebody else is going to come in. So they're seeking shelter. I mean, I suppose I could have moved it closer, but as long as we can just about hold out. So there you see. That's one thing I do find useful, I must admit, is when you click on a building, you can see we've got 2 people working there. So there they are there. So it highlights there the building in yellow, but it also highlights the actual people. So it looks like they're picking up the dead and taking them over to the graveyard. So as long as we can get through this first year, then we'll be able to start expanding out, because it's a real juggling act between, you know, you want more people, but when you need more people, you need more food to be able to cope. So it looks like nobody's got anything to do, so I think what I'm going to get them to do is start chopping the trees and the stones down. That'll keep them occupied. Hello. So there, see, because somebody died, this is the frustrating part. I find micromanagement, there's a lot of it. Because I've just come over here, I can see there's an icon saying the building's got room for more workers. In other words, there's nobody there. And that's because somebody died. It doesn't get automatically populated. Even though there's 6 labourers, so there's technically somebody who could come in and take over that job. There's nobody there, so I've got to keep on top of this myself and fill those jobs. Make sure that there's somebody actually doing the work. Now, speaking of the forager, where the heck did the forager? Oh, they're over here. Yeah, I seriously don't like those wolves howling. I mean, they're not much use at the moment because it's just winter time anyway, to be fair, but... Ah, phew. Right, so... It's now starting to thaw. And we've now got... Yeah, it makes a sort of like noise, like a... Every time you start a new year, it pops up and tells you. But it makes this noise, but it's also like the same noise when a sort of a battle starts. So it's like, that always catches me off guard, that every time I see that. Anyway, we're down to only 8 people. So that sucks. But at least we should be starting to gather food. This season we should start to gather food from those berry bushes there. Plus from the mushrooms. The only concern is there's wolves. Well, that's useful because there's some willow around there. That's something I'll be needing later on. Now they're complaining of a lack of water. That's going to be a big problem. So there's a water well over there. I think what I'll do is I'll build another one a bit closer. I'll move. As I said, this all starts up in a certain way, and I'm just going to end up juggling things around later on. Because wells do run out. 46%, that's 30%. That over there for them. Because I need the water for them to drink, but I also need the to avoid problems of buildings sitting on fire. So, tell you what, I've got a little ring up here, so you can. I like these ones because you can actually retarget their actual work area. So if I put that about there, I don't know if it's the same place anyway. You know, the game automatically saves every 10 minutes, I think it is anyway. Or I think I've got it set to every 20 minutes. It's one of these games where the game actually freezes every time it saves the game, which is a bit annoying, but... Right, so the forager doesn't have exactly much to do, to be fair. It's early spring anyway. So yeah, I think there's just that one fishing area. So I think what I might do is just try to see if I can kind of flatten that area there a bit. If I can get them to do that, hopefully I can get the fishing shack in. One thing I've noticed incidentally, you notice the icons disappeared. Which is a bit weird. Sometimes it disappears and then it comes back. There it goes back again. So I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, we've got enough people working on producing firewood. At this stage, the only reason we need logs is for, you know, to produce that firewood anyway. I'm not really doing a great deal in terms of building because I've only got, we're up to 9 people, so it looks like was somebody born or did somebody join? So we've got 7 too. Because you do get, these do have kids. So you'll actually get people coming in to join the village. But you also get babies born. So that's another thing you've got to keep on top of, is the fact that these people actually they get older. And that's another thing it doesn't warn you about as well. When you get professions, you'll get to points where people are assigned to jobs but they can't do them anymore. So you've got to, it's every so often it definitely pays to go into that professions page and check if all the jobs are occupied, and just to keep on top of it, because it is a very micromanaged game, shall we say. Anyway, seeing as everybody's gathering stuff over there, I'm going to bring my wagon over to there. It's a real pity you can't get that later on. I mean, if I go to the build menu, storage, we're into tier 1 at the minute. There used to be an option where you could actually build one of these wagons, and then they took it away. So, yeah, that was really a shame, that. And that's another thing to bear in mind as well. When you get attacked by raiders, you've got to toggle the option to garrison the actual town centre. Everybody piles in to the actual town centre, or a certain number of people will. And then they can defend the actual town centre. The only trouble is you've got to remember to actually take them back out again, otherwise they'll starve to death, which is a bit embarrassing. Right, so it looks like the forager's got some mushrooms that we'll probably start gathering. So far they're getting 60 berries, 66 herbs, 83 mushrooms. That's quite good. Out of curiosity, I mean, there's no reason not to move more of these up, I suppose. So I'm going to see if I can put that fishing hut down. No, still not letting me. It's just too steep. So even though it's been supposedly flattened, it's still too steep. Oh, there. Alright, so I can put it right on the edge there. And then what I can do is I can speed things up. I can get them to build a dirt track. But the trouble is, you can only get them to build one so far. Or in this case, invalid placement. Okay. So it's being very fussy in terms of the direction. And I like that. You don't necessarily have to have straight roads. You can have bendy roads and all sorts. It doesn't necessarily. The trouble is, I mean, they'll go off and they'll build this dirt track, but it doesn't necessarily mean they'll use it though. They'll still take the shortcut. They'll just do as they please, basically. So it looks like. Let's have a look. So who's this one? So this is Eldra. So she's off chopping trees because they're in the way for our fishing shack. But once that's up and running, they'll be able to start getting us fish. I must admit that's where transport starts to get a bit confusing after that. Well, we'll see as things progress in the game anyway. Just conscious this video is running on, to be honest. With it being a getting started one, I thought I'd run a bit long because we want to get through at least the first window. So far we haven't done too bad. I mean, we've lost a few people because of the window. I didn't get ahead quickly enough to get the actual firewood in, but we managed to get around that. That's pretty easy. Early on, it's pretty easy, to be honest. But to progress, you've then got to really start getting into the farming more than anything. So when I start to press the F key, you can see there's different levels of fertility. The greener it is, the better. I mean, if I actually tell it to pick a field out, for example, and move that around, you see over here it's about 65% fertility level on that little square there. Over there, the fertility level is 44. And it tells you the soil mixtures and so on, and they impact crops. The farming on this is a lot more complicated than other games. With other games, usually you would just basically just pick a crop, put it in, that's it. With this, yeah, it's a lot more complicated. It makes the game a lot more interesting, almost a lot more challenging. So let's see how our forager's done so far. So they're not doing too bad. not doing too bad. I mean, I'm getting over 120 something mushrooms. So I don't think... yeah, I mean, berries spoil, that's for certain. Herbs maybe not, but the meat that you get spoils. Smoked meat lasts a lot longer, so I'm tempted if I have a look and see what sort of food we've got. We've got about 26 raw meat. Now they can cook raw meat, but you can also get a smoker to actually do that. That would be better. So off they go, and they'll start to catch fish. So it's because we're close to that little icon there where there's a shoal of fish being seen that we got 230%. Just out of curiosity, I'm just moving this around because I can see I'm getting the fishing areas better. So it's 240. So the fishing area, I think the highest I got it was 16. $15, $16, so that's about 80%. So I'll set the area to there. And so they produced about 255 last season. So far we're getting quite a bit of meat, so yeah, not too bad. We're now up at 10 people. I don't know where these extra people are coming from. I haven't been paying that much attention, to be honest, but there's no children there. So there must be people coming in. Normally it tells you when there's people actually joining. And you've usually got a choice where you can actually decide whether people are going to join. Because here we've got 5 people who have been killed so far due to my shoddy management skill. But let's make their life a bit easier. Oh, off they go. It's good because you can zoom in. I mean, the detail on these things there's a lot of detail on this. It's really good, I must admit. It's the first type of this game that the developers actually created, and it's extremely detailed, and it's only early access. Oh, you got all the animations and everything. Oh, there you are. So she's having fun just fishing off the bank, even though there's a bunch of fish over here. Yeah, what a floaty boat. Now forager. So where's our forager? What are they up to? So he's actually in the actual house. He's unable to work. That's something I'm probably going to find quite quickly because it's out of season. We're going to get back into winter again. But at least this time round, we've got 230 firewood, so we should be okay. But what we really want to be getting into is being able to produce clothing, and that way they'll be able to survive outside the area for longer, or at least outside the houses, I should say. So if we go into resources, none of those sort of things are opened up yet because we need to expand and get into tier 2. So there's the tannery. So the tannery will take all of those pelts that the hunter's been gathering and will turn them into actual, pretty good clothing, which is good against the wildlife, the wolves and bears if they show up. Protects them better, but it also means they'll survive for longer periods of time without having to keep running back to their home. But what I need are I need another 5 houses. I need a market. I need a population of 30 plus the planks. So if I want to get planks, I need a saw pit. to get a saw pit, you need a stockyard. So we could build as soon as we build a stock yard there, which basically stores like your timber and your stores. That then unlocks that specific building. So you don't necessarily have to upgrade the town centre to get access to more things. So that's just gives you access to the higher tier buildings. So the Fletchers that you need also requires the saw pit. Basket shop. You've got a compost yard. You've got a cobbler shop. You've got tannery you mentioned plus a saw pit. Food production. Got access to all the food production ones. That also needs a stockyard. So that's a storehouse. The storehouse pretty much stocks everything else except the root cellar is more specific for food. If you want a market, you need a store pit plus a storage. If you want to, well, town centre's a one-off. You can't build any more after that. Defences, walls and roads and decorations. So I suppose the next thing to do is start filling out the rest of those tier 1 buildings. That'll then give me access to more buildings. We've got enough food to last about a month, so that's other things I need to fix. Start getting more people and getting access to more food. Because I mean, we can already get into farming if we wanted to. Just certain types of like crops that we want to grow. So yeah, at least we managed to. So far, we've survived. I'd say almost about two winters. That's just grown up because we're obviously getting fish now. But we've managed to survive 2 winters. We've lost a few people along the way. But yeah, that's not too bad of a start. So it's a case of we're only just getting started and there's a ton of things to do. But that's all for another episode.